Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. JACALYN. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. JACALYN at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are on USA Global TV and radio. I am Ricki Mckenna, and I am your chef. I'm a certified nutritionist. I've been working in this field for 20 plus years, and I absolutely love to cook. Therefore, we have the United Kitchens. So welcome to my kitchen and welcome to United Kitchens on USA Global TV and radio. Today, we are going to prepare, I guess you'd call it a keto kind of recipe, because we've eliminated the pasta with all the sugars in it, and we're going to replace that. It's a classic Italian recipe for shrimp scampi, but instead of the pasta, we're going to use spinach and dandelion greens as the base. And so we begin with, of course, onions and garlic. And the first thing I'm going to do is take my onion, and I've got half an onion. What I've done this time, this recipe can be doubled and can serve 4 people. I'm going to do it for 2. So to show you how to take a recipe and make it smaller, just put things in half, except for one thing. I believe that since I've done this before, I've found that certain things for the sauce, which it's a cream and butter sauce along with some Parmesan cheese. What I've found is I like a little more sauce. So I'm going to use the same amount that I would for using 24 shrimp for 4 people rather than 12 shrimp for 2 people. So I'm doing the one for 2, which a lot of us are doing these days, since we're not cooking for a lot of people. So I'm going to cut my onion first, and we'll get that started in the pan. And use a pan that's large enough to accommodate all of your ingredients, and you can push them to the side. I'll show you what I mean in a few minutes. First, we'll take our onion, and I'm going to bring my pan over. I've got a 10-inch skillet. It's a pretty good size skillet. So that's what we're using today. And we're going to take our olive oil. How can you have an Italian dish without olive oil? And put it in the pan. It calls for a couple of tablespoons, so that's about what that is. Maybe a little more, a little less, but that's okay. And scatter the onions in there. And we'll take our garlic, of course. I had somebody say, "Where's the garlic?" And I hadn't gotten to it yet. Of course, you can't have the shrimp scampi without garlic. So you can do the garlic any way you like. You can slice it, or you can chop it up. I'm going to slice and then chop it into smaller pieces. And you just want to, with this dish, as with many, you want to take the garlic and the onions together, and we'll put it on medium-high. And then we have to just keep an eye on it so that the garlic does not burn, but we do want it to brown. And the onions as well. So we'll get that started on medium-high. And while those are browning, we will take, this recipe calls for thyme, which is one of the most wonderful spices in the world. And I've already taken the fresh thyme and taken it off the vine. So what I'm going to do now is chop it. And of course you wash it before, rinse it before you start chopping. Even if it's from your own garden, there just might be some things out there that you want to rinse off. We're just going to roughly chop it. And I think I've got about a tablespoon, but if I have a little more, that's fine. We happen to love thyme. It's one of those wonderful aromatic spices that is really adds flavor to a dish. Now, along with that, into the mix goes celery, but I happen to I thought I had celery. And if you've ever run into this, you probably feel the same way. Oh, sure, I've got a stalk of celery in the refrigerator. And when I opened it up, it was bok choy. So, since the base of the bok choy resembles celery, we're going to use that. And so I'm going to lay my bok choy on top of each other, the quickest way to cut it. And this is what I would do with the celery as well. And that's to divide the base into little bite-sized pieces. And of course, you can take the tops and either steam them, saute them, or even put them raw into a salad. They're absolutely delicious that way. So we will do that. I think that's going to be enough. That approximates a stalk of celery. And we'll just cut this one up, the last two little guys. And they're in small bite-sized pieces. And if you get hungry, you can nibble. And we'll have that ready. So we have our onions and garlic are already in the pan. And let's see, I think we'll just bring all that over. The next thing that goes in is the thyme. Okay, let's see. We'll put that back in the bowl now that I've chopped it up so it releases all the oils and the aromas from the thyme. We'll have that ready. We're starting to sizzle, and I'll show you that in a minute. I'm going to take my basil. It calls for about a tablespoon or two. Let's see. 2 tablespoons. So I have basil that I took from the garden yesterday, and the best way to keep your basil or any other herbs like this in your refrigerator so that they're fresh is rinse them off slightly, but not a lot, and make sure you dry them. And then put them in a glass of water. Stand them up, and this is the way they'll stay, nice and fresh. So I'm going to just strip off some of the basil here so we can make a tablespoon's worth of chopped. And let's see. Here we go. I've got 2 kinds of basil. I have the regular ordinary basil that you find in most people's gardens, and I have a little bit of Thai basil, which is a bit more on the aromatic side. It's a little bit spicier, so we're going to use both. And this is the Thai basil. You can see it's much smaller leaves than the other. And there's the difference. This is the regular stuff. This is the Thai. And so I'm going to just strip the Thai basil leaves off. They've already been rinsed. And add a couple more. And you know what? I just might add a bunch more because I happen to love basil as well. So, yum. Smells divine. And just going to put that in there. And chop up my basil. And I should have at least a tablespoon here. And we will add that. I'm going to take a look at my onions right now to make sure that they're not burning. Give them a little stir. And turn the heat down just a notch. I'll show you what's going on over there. If we can do this and make it work. Aha! Yes. As you can see, the onions are getting translucent, and the garlic is too. So I'm going to turn it down a little bit, depending on your range. You want to keep it under control so it doesn't burn. See, it's starting to sizzle. I'm going to add my thyme. And mix that around so that we have evenly distributed. We're going to want everything that's evenly distributed here. Oh gosh, it smells divine. And for those of you on radio, we mixed in the thyme with the onions and the garlic and the olive oil. And the onions are just beginning to brown a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to take my basil and chop it up a little bit more. Of course, they're leaves, so you know they're going to be distributed through the whole thing. Actually, I'm going to put the bok choy in first, which is, if you have the celery, that would be what you do. And give that a little stir. Oops. Okay. There we go. So we've got, theoretically, we have celery, thyme, onions, basil is coming up, and garlic. So our onions are just about beginning to brown, and now's the time to add the basil. Actually, I'm not going to. I'm going to add my shrimp first. It's really very interesting. Okay. Here we go. There's the basil. Now you don't want to overcook it. So I'm just going to let it start to wilt in there while I grab out some spinach, since that is the basis for our shrimp and vegetables, the scampi, instead of the pasta. So I shall remove that from the refrigerator and get it out. Okay. I happen to have a brandy spandy new package of the baby spinach, which I'm going to open. And I wanted to show you, I know I've done this before, but I want to show you just to make sure everybody gets the idea. If I can get the package open, there we go. We need a good handful of the spinach. So I'm going to remove that now. Almost a pound, and you know how spinach cooks down very quickly and looks like you didn't put half of what you put in the pan. So we'll take about half of this. It's a 2-pound pack. There we go. And I'm going to take a paper towel and put it on top before I close it and put it back in the refrigerator, because that will absorb the water and the moisture and keep it from wilting. Alrighty. Okay. Now let's go back over so I can show you what we're doing in the pan, because we're going to put the shrimp in. And I have a dozen deveined and cleaned shrimp, and they are definitely peeled. I'm going to make a hole in the middle here. You can see. Turn my range down just a little bit and put my shrimp in. And maybe just add a teeny drop more of the olive oil. Now you notice how fast the shrimp cook, so let's keep an eye on them. We want them to get translucent, but we don't want them cooked through at this point. There we go. We'll let that go for just a minute while I give the spinach a wee bit of a chop through, which you can't see right now, but that's exactly what I'm doing. Just a bit. And we will have the dandelion greens ready in just a second. I'm going to flip the shrimp. There we go. Woohoo! Over you go, baby. There. Okay. And we're going to let that go for about another minute or so while I chop up our dandelion greens. Now I take the bottoms off till we get to the leaves. And please don't throw this out. Use them in a smoothie. So I will save those for a smoothie later. And I'm just going to give them a rough chop. And that's about enough time to make sure that the shrimp aren't overcooked. So we've got a pile of dandelion greens and a pile of wonderfully fresh raw baby spinach as well. Now here comes the fun, because we're going to take our shrimp out and our vegetables and put it in a bowl and let them rest. So we can mix up the shrimp and the vegetables. I hope you can see what I'm doing here. Yeah. So I'm going to clean out most of it, but there's still moisture in the pan. And what I love about this recipe is this is it. You use one pan to do all this goody stuff. Now I'm going to take a teeny drop of the olive oil again. You don't have to, but I do. And I'm going to take my dandelion greens. And I'm on a medium heat now, rather than medium high. And then I'm going to take my spinach and put it right on top and let them both wilt. And if you want to speed the the process up a little bit, you can cover it for a couple of minutes. All it takes is about 3 to 4 minutes, maybe 5. And since my range is pretty hot, I've turned it down to medium, so that they don't burn, but they do get cooked. So now I'm going to take a cover just to make things go a little faster. And help them wilt. So in the meantime, we're going to get everything else ready. Our next process, something about today, I don't know where the moon is, but I'm having a little speech problem here. We've got 2 tablespoons of heavy cream, or half and half. We've got about a tablespoon or more of your favorite Parmesan cheese. It's grated, however you want to do it. And we need 4 tablespoons of butter. Now, what I found in making this before, I only used 2 tablespoons of butter, and I used 2 tablespoons of the cream, or the half and half. And what I found was the sauce was absolutely delicious, but it needed a little bit more sauce. So this time I added another teaspoon or tablespoon to the cream, and I'm going to definitely have the 4 tablespoons of butter in there. I wanted to tell you something about the dandelion greens and how good they are for you. They're actually something that helps cleanse your liver. And in many cases, I would much rather use food, in most cases, to help cleanse my body. And so things like cilantro, dandelion greens, nutritionally are absolutely fabulous, because the dandelion greens address your liver and cleansing that. And the cilantro helps with eliminating heavy metals from your body. So just a little nutritional goodies there. The basil is also good for settling your stomach. So this recipe, rather than having the pasta traditionally, as the Italians would do it, you can certainly do that and replace the dandelion greens and the spinach with and your pasta of choice. And I would use angel hair. the thinnest spaghetti kind of thing, because it also will absorb the sauce as well as the spinach and everything else in here does. And so I'm going to check my spinach. It's starting to wilt. Here we go. Give it a little mix. We don't want it to stick to the pan. There we go. And I think you'll find once it starts to wilt that it really goes quickly. So have a bowl prepared. I have my serving bowl ready. There we go. I'll just give you a quick glimpse of what that looks like. It's doing its thing as far as wilting beautifully. Just a quick look. There you go. See how all that high pile of greens has shrunk to the size that we need it. And the consistency. So you don't want to overdo it. So now I'm going to take my spinach and my dandelion greens. And you can see how quickly this goes. And spread it out in the serving bowl as you would pasta. So here, instead of the pasta, this is what we're doing. Now, so I've got my spinach and greens ready. And now we'll take our 4 tablespoons of butter, about 2 at a time. And if you have a little bit more, it certainly can't hurt. As Julia Childs used to say, everything goes better with butter. And I happen to agree. And especially if it's real butter. Now, in this recipe, you can use either salted or unsalted butter. If you notice, we have not added any salt or pepper to any of this yet. And that's another reason I like the greens, because greens inherently have salt. They have sodium chloride and they have a lot of minerals. Therefore, they're one of the best things for you. So we're going to take the butter and let that start its melting. And I might have to turn it up just a little bit. And we'll take you back over there so you can see how this process works. And take my trusty wooden spoon. You can see the pan looks a little bit like it's brown. That is from both the greens and the olive oil. So I'm going to mix it up a little bit and add my cream. And I'm going to use a tablespoon of Parmesan to start with. Sprinkle it around, and then add another one. So we have 2 tablespoons plus of the Parmesan. And what you want to do is mix this thoroughly until it starts to thicken. Once it starts to thicken, then your sauce is ready and you can turn it off. But as soon as we get it thickening, there we go. And it doesn't have to be really terribly thick. There we go. The more cheese you put in, the thicker it will be. And I'm going to add just a little pinch more. And because we happen to like a little spice, I'm going to take some red pepper flakes. And you can see how many I have. There's not a lot there, but that's all it takes in this recipe to give it a little bit of zing. And let's put our shrimp and our vegetables back in the sauce now. So what you want to do is very thoroughly coat everything with the sauce. And it will cook down a little bit, even though it's on medium. Just let it cook down a bit. Oh my goodness, does that smell good? And you can see it's coating everything beautifully, all the shrimp. Now, if you do this for 4 and you don't have a big enough skillet, if you use a 10-inch or 11-inch skillet like this one, the easiest thing to do is to cook the shrimp in 2 batches. And we're just going to let that sit in there for a couple of seconds more. I'm going to turn my range off because, as we know, electric ranges retain heat. So I'm turning it off. Got my bowl ready with my spinach in it, which instead of the pasta, we have the spinach. And we have this beautiful shrimp scampi in a wonderful cream and cheese sauce. And I'm just going to fill that bowl as a serving bowl, or you could do it individually, however you want to do it. I'm going to do the whole thing so I can serve it together. And get every single bit of that good sauce off the bottom. Of course, that's where all the good flavors are. And there we go. Our cheese has melted beautifully in with the cream and the butter. So we have a wonderfully rich and delicious tasting shrimp scampi on a bed of spinach and dandelion greens. And since I happen to like the both, when you serve it, I like both serving a little bit of the red pepper and a little more of the cheese, so that if your guests or whoever you're eating with happens to like the spice and the cheese, they can add their own. And there we go. And as I said, you can add salt or black pepper if you like. Black pepper is kind of an overkill with this because of the red. It's really good. It's a different flavor, but this scampi calls for what we have in it now. And I'm going to give it a little taste, just to let you know for sure. And make sure you get some of the greens from the bottom when you're tasting. I knew I shouldn't have done that. The shrimp are delicious. They're perfect. They're not overdone. Make sure you don't overcook the shrimp. You're almost better off leaving them a little bit underdone. The one thing I am going to do is add a teeny bit more of the cheese on top. And voila, lunch. And I think accompanied with, excuse me. I think a lovely chilled glass of either Pinot Grigio or even a Viognier would be fabulous with this, or a, what's the other one? Anyway, a nice chilled white wine, a nice dry white wine would complement the flavors. Or actually, in this case, I think I would like even a beer. A chilled beer would be good. But my favorite would be the white wine to go with this, and a wonderful piece of crusty garlic bread. You have a fabulous meal. So there you have it. It's our keto or lower carb Italian classic with the shrimp scampi and spinach and dandelion greens. It got me. I got a piece of the red pepper and it got me. So you'll have to forgive me, but at any rate, it's absolutely delicious, and it works even cold, especially with the greens. You can serve this room temperature or hot, but you can also serve it cold, and it would make a lovely little appetizer, as well as a beautiful main course. So with that, it's Ricki Mckenna. This is the United Kitchens on USA Global TV, and you can reach me. Let's see, Dr. JACALYN, are we there? Let me see what we have here. since we're here. Oh, okay. Did we have any questions or any comments today? Because I know that it's different to use the dandelion greens, but I've given you the reasons for that. They are absolutely wonderful. And you can eat them raw as well, but wilting them with the spinach makes an absolutely, the interesting part of the absolutely taste treat is that you have the spinach that is a little bit bitter and dandelion greens that are traditionally bitter. And you've got the sweetness of the shrimp and the cheese and the cream. So it's a marvelous blend of flavors in here. And you can reach me on rickiskitchen.net. That's RICKISKITCHEN.net. And you can get my book on Amazon. It is Yes, You Can Eat Well and Eat Right. And it has lots of different recipes in it. It has food history. It has some quips, making food animals for kids to play with. There's also a good bit of nutritional information in there. If you're wondering about cholesterol or triglycerides, it's addressed in there. There are some charts that help you cook beans and legumes. And generally, it's a fun read. And there's also blank pages for you to fill in and put in things that you like to do with the recipe. For example, as we replace the celery in here with the crunchy parts of the bok choy. So hearty appetite. Have a wonderful weekend. And come on back to USA Global TV and radio and visit with us again.